All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a seriously fascinating theme to unpack today, one that honestly touches basically every single part of our modern lives: illusion versus reality. Now, we are pulling all of our insights today directly from issue 96 of the Nish is Here newsletter, which is just an absolutely fantastic source for curated insights, by the way. Look, you and I are constantly bombarded with information, images, and narratives all day long. But how much of what we actually see is real, and how much is just, well, a carefully constructed illusion? Today, we're going to untangle that whole web.
So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Number 1. Don't delegate your understanding. 2. Weaponizing identity with AI. 3. Pop culture illusions. 4. Real-world cultural exchanges. 5. The American laundry ban. And finally, 6. Curated finds for curious minds. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Don't delegate your understanding. AI versus human thought.
Okay, before we get into the crazy digital illusions out there, we really need to frame our mindset here. I want you to consider this quote from the newsletter's Thought of the Week. It's by user Yasin MTB, and it goes, "The more people depend on AI to automate everything, the more we are losing our understanding." I want to challenge you right now. Just pause for a second and reevaluate this in your own daily routine. Are you handing over your genuine comprehension to artificial intelligence? Look, AI is a fantastic tool. It's great for generating text or organizing data. But when we start outsourcing our actual understanding, our critical thinking, we make ourselves incredibly vulnerable to the exact kinds of illusions we are about to discuss.
Moving on to Section 2. Weaponizing identity with AI. The grift.
That vulnerability we just talked about, it brings us to a very literal, highly profitable trap that is happening on your feeds right now: hyper-realistic deepfakes. We're talking about generative AI tools being used to create highly convincing but entirely fake photos and videos, and they are designed specifically to manipulate viewers. This right here is how social engineering has entered a cynical, highly advanced new frontier. This isn't just some poorly worded spam email anymore. It's a visual reality manufactured to deceive your eyes and, honestly, to hijack your emotions.
This perfectly illustrates how this deception operates in the wild. On the left, you have the illusion, a conservative MAGA woman projecting a shared political ideology. But on the right, you have the reality. It was actually an Indian medical student operating a highly profitable trap. The scammer basically generated fake photos and videos to exploit the trust of their targets, earning thousands of dollars in the process. And look, we aren't looking at this to endorse or condemn any specific political viewpoint. We're just impartially observing how scammers are using generative AI to turn literally any shared identity into a lucrative digital trap. When you delegate your critical thinking, this is exactly the kind of illusion you fall for.
Section 3. Pop culture illusions, personas, and plotlines.
Now, it isn't just modern AI creating these illusions, right? Pop culture has basically always been built on manufactured facades. Let's look at a massive pop culture giant. The newsletter points out what a lot of people see as a pretty stark contrast between Oprah Winfrey's public image and some of the darker realities hidden behind it. On one hand, you have this widely celebrated, empathic, super inspirational public persona. But on the other, as the source material highlights, there is a long history of her proximity to powerful people who have committed horrifying acts. It leaves a trail of controversies where accountability just never quite seemed to follow. Once again, we are just impartially reporting the analysis from the newsletter here, but it serves as a really powerful reminder. Those glossy personas we see on our screens, they are often carefully curated illusions that might not reflect the full reality of the situation at all. But hey, pop culture illusions aren't always nefarious. Sometimes they're just pure, manufactured fun. Let's pivot to some incredibly high-stakes fictional plot lines for a second. The newsletter highlighted the awesome new trailer for the 1993 set Street Fighter movie. We are talking Ryu and Ken, totally estranged, getting thrown back into combat by Chun-Li for the World Warrior tournament. It is a brutal clash of fists, fate, and this deadly conspiracy where they have to face each other and their own pasts. If they don't face their demons, it's game over. It's such a perfect example of a completely manufactured, scripted illusion designed purely to entertain us with ridiculously high stakes. Which brings us to Section 4, Real-World Cultural Exchanges, Breaking Digital Barriers. Let's shift gears from the heavily scripted world of Hollywood to the chaotic,
completely unscripted reality of on-the-ground cultural exploration. The newsletter features the creator iShowSpeed, who is easily one of the fastest-growing creators of this generation, spending 30 days exploring the continent of Africa. Instead of being in a curated studio set, he's out there navigating chaotic real-world markets, he's facing down extreme personal challenges and phobias, and he's experiencing intense, authentic local traditions across multiple nations. It's high energy, it's messy, and it really represents a push to break through our digital barriers to experience raw, unfiltered cultural reality instead of just consuming it through a sanitized lens.
Speaking of sanitized lenses, Section 5, the American laundry ban, a manufactured norm. Let's bring this whole theme of illusion right back into our own backyards, literally. Why is the US one of the only countries in the entire world where hanging laundry outside is actually banned in a ton of neighborhoods? It's a fascinating central mystery. Think about it. Drying clothes in the sun is a perfectly practical, totally free, and environmentally friendly chore. So how on earth did it become illegal in so many American suburbs? Let's walk through how this builds chronologically, because, wow, this is an absolute masterclass in corporate brainwashing. Step 1 was the post-war suburban boom. You had millions of Americans moving into these newly built neighborhoods. Step 2 is where the illusion was planted. The sudden rise of electric dryers, combined with massive, targeted advertising propaganda. Appliance companies obviously needed to sell dryers, right? So they actively campaigned to convince Americans that hanging clothes outside was something only poor people did. They literally manufactured this association between line drying and a poor appearance. And finally, step 3, the Homeowners Association or HOA movement took that corporate propaganda, codified it into actual neighborhood rules, and started strictly enforcing these bans to quote-unquote protect property values. Which leaves us with this staggering reality. On one side, you have American suburbs, where a completely natural chore is banned by HOAs due to a totally fabricated association with poverty, versus the rest of the world, where hanging laundry outside remains a perfectly common, highly practical, everyday habit. It is a profound example of how reality can be entirely constructed by consumerism and advertising, literally changing how millions of people live their daily lives without them ever even questioning why. Finally, Section 6, Curated Finds for Curious Minds, the Value of Curation. So we've looked at AI scams, we've looked at pop culture facades, and the completely manufactured reality of American laundry. How do we actually cut through all this noise? Well, this week's quote from the newsletter is from Peter Thiel, who says, "Competition is for losers." The author of the newsletter adds to this, saying, "I compete with no one. I am simply trying to be better than the person I was yesterday." This is exactly why navigating these illusions matters so much. Staying informed and seeking the truth, it isn't about beating other people in some argument online. It's about personal growth. It's about improving your own baseline of understanding so you don't fall victim to the grifts and the manufactured norms happening all around you. So let's wrap up with our key takeaways for empowering your reality. First, do not delegate your understanding to anyone or anything else. Second, train yourself to see past these digital and cultural illusions, whether it's an AI deepfake or some weird HOA rule. Third, utilize smart tools to your advantage rather than letting them use you. For instance, the newsletter mentions their sponsor Doric AI, which is a really great example of an interactive builder that helps you create a stunning website in like a minute. Use AI to build, don't let it think for you. And finally, stay informed with curated insights. In a sea of infinite, overwhelming information, real human curation is your absolute best defense against deception. And guys, that is exactly why finding trusted sources is so incredibly critical today. If you found today's explainer valuable, it's time to stop falling for digital illusions and start getting the curated truth. Join over 2,000 curious minds and subscribe at nichehere.com. So, I'm going to leave you with this one thought. As you scroll through your feed later today, are you consuming reality, or is a manufactured illusion consuming you? Take control of your understanding today over at nichehere.com. I will see you in the next explainer.